Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our brand new show, TK. What are we doing today?
One. Our show is definitely new, and we, as always, can have some technical problems. So, hello everyone. Hopefully, you can hear me now.
We can hear
Sorry
you
for
perfectly,
the
yeah.
bit of a wait. Yes. So today we're going to talk about agile leadership and why it's an important topic. It's the first episode of our new Apple show, and it's not because we're recording it on Apple devices. We're
No.
two worms inside the Apple. So we're going to talk about what is agile leadership and why it's so important. And by the way, thank you so much, Nir, for letting me know that you can't hear me. You're hopefully able to hear me now. There's no live transmission without technical errors. So there you go. So today we'll talk about what agile leadership is and why it's so important. And let's start with our favorite definition of agility by Lisa Atkins. I'm sure you know this definition, Arif. So what do you
Yes,
find
I think
interesting about it?
we've used this many times, and if you're familiar with our live events, you may have seen the definition before. But I think the critical thing, if we're talking from a leadership point of view today, it's the fact that agility thrives in those areas, those kind of circumstances, environments where there's a lot of uncertainty, high degrees of volatility, things are constantly changing and evolving. So that obviously then means we need a leadership style or a way of leading that is suited for that type of environment and this way of work, right? That's what that
That's
means, I
precisely
guess.
true, Arif. And
Yeah.
there's one thing, there's a couple of things missing in her definition, I think, and also her agile proficiency model, which is actually one, leadership. The second one is culture. So this guy, Luke Gerstner, he was the CEO of IBM. It's a bit of an old school company, I know, although they're doing some great things, and I have some great friends in IBM. But the interesting thing is, the topic of today is leadership in agile culture, because we believe that for the success of agility, you absolutely need to have the culture that supports agility. The problem with agile as it is it's a great way of work, it's an amazing philosophy of work, but it's counterintuitive to many people. So the reason agile fails in many places is because it doesn't have the culture that allows it to grow.
Mm.
And I guess you've seen it in many places, Arif.
Yeah, I think that you're getting somewhere here in terms of the organization and how they act, what's unsaid in terms of what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable, those kind of unsaid rules, practices, etc., that you define as culture here, that has a huge bearing on the success and failure of a new way of working. And I guess that would apply in many other situations as well, or across other domains perhaps. But it's really critically important in from an agility point of view, because the demand agility places on, and I say this a lot when we're doing our training, which is it's an invitation to structural change and behavioral change,
Yeah.
and cultural change. Three types of change that agility invites you towards. Now, not all organizations are ready for it, and even if they say they're ready, you quickly realize through the culture of the organization whether they're actually it's going to succeed or not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm showing here is the culture iceberg,
Right.
which is,
Yes.
there's a lot of cultures, a lot of organizations are basically using the language of agility, saying, we're doing this, being that, kumbaya, all agile. And the problem is the behavior of people below the surface of the water, as in what the culture really is, what's the unseen element of the culture. And as Peter Drucker said, culture can eat strategy for breakfast. So if you do want agility in your organization and you don't change the culture, it will be eaten for all the meals. And that's the problem. And Arif, what have you seen? Can you give us any examples of when it happened, when culture was a mismatch towards agility?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've worked in places where that's the case. I mean, I remember one organization I worked in. I didn't stay there that long, but for various reasons. But one of the ones was it was like they said they wanted to introduce agility, but they never actually openly said they wanted to do it, right? So the interview process and me going for the role and all of that stuff at the time, they said all the right words to me as to, yes, this is what we want to do. We want to transform ways of working. We want to bring agility in. Amazing, cool. But I guess the alarm bell should have been when the role title they gave me wasn't what I would be doing. They were like, no, don't worry about that. We were agreed. This is what you'll be doing. I was, okay, fine. All right. So I start doing what I thought we had agreed I'm going to be doing. And then very quickly I get called up by some senior people and say, well, hold on a minute, you're meant to be doing this role. So why are you doing all these other things? And I was like, well, that's what we agreed in the interview. Oh, yeah, but that's not what I didn't agree that. So, and I'm higher than I'm higher.
I'm the one, right?
I'm the boss, right? And not so and so. So very quickly unraveled because the culture wasn't ready, and there was no alignment that this change was needed, or it was something that was agreed. So then obviously, I guess they carried on in their existing culture.
As they would, right? Yeah.
As they would, because there's no one
was eating for
defined.
breakfast.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Well, it ate me up because I got spat out after 3 months. So.
Sorry about it, Arif. But I guess fine. You've ended with us, so that's a good thing.
No, that's okay. Yes. Well, not yeah, but yes. So there you go. So that's an example of where there's complete misalignment, mismatch, and culturally an organization isn't ready. Right?
It's an absolutely great point, Arif. And this shows again I'll show the picture of the iceberg, because it can really be a poisoner towards any change. And by the way, if any of you, our wonderful viewers, have encountered the stories like this, share it with us. Give us any indication that you are probably going through the same thing. So as always, hello everyone, and welcome for the viewers that actually joined in the middle of the stream. So, but this is actually quite important in terms of your story, Arif, because I have a strong, and we both have a very strong opinion about whose responsibility is to start setting the culture. And it's actually the leaders. As you can see, Arnold Schwarzenegger with his famous Terminator role in Terminator 2 saying, come with me if you want to live, because I am the leader and I am going to show the behaviors that are acceptable in this organization. So in your example, the acceptable behavior was to lie to people in terms of their roles, and then try to hire you to do something else, whereas actually to maybe mislead certain parts of the organization. We believe that it's very important for leaders to go first, because they are the ones that are setting the culture.
Yeah, definitely. That's right. I mean, everything stems from that authority figure, right? So I'm sure if we viewers watching this, you can look at examples outside of your working life, right? And you'll see the same pattern, that humans will look to people or places of authority as in a way to help guide them in whatever they seem is important in their life, right? So you look to your parents, you may look towards other loved ones, you may look to if you're practicing of a faith, you may look to your faith and leadership and authority there. Whatever it is that's important to you in terms of giving you structure and in your life, then you will look to that authority figure to guide you. So in the same way, in an organization, it's typical employees will look to those above them, more senior to them, more experienced than them, to give them some guidance as to what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And so if the leaders are practicing a certain style of behavior, then that's going to be we look at other institutions here in the UK, especially public ones, without going into too much detail, and you see that played out quite disastrously.
Yeah, you do, unfortunately, right? And I can give some examples where there were some public figures which were, for instance, asking people to stay at home, not have parties, and then they stayed at home but had parties, and
Exactly.
it
There you go.
undermined a lot of efforts, and one would say that public health was in danger, but that's a story for another time. The important thing, Arif, is you've actually defined agile leadership, which is creating a culture that grows agility. So agile leadership is primarily responsible in doing that. And without this culture that grows agility, there are so many poisoners that can easily overpower agility in an organization. In effect, there are precious few examples when agility can grow naturally in an organization because it's a new, novel, and sometimes counterintuitive way of work. And thus, what happens is, the things that we were taught in school, the things that we thought are the ways we should work, just overpower agility, and it cannot grow. And we've seen it multiple times. So someone has to be there to set a different example, a different culture, in order to be able to let agility grow. But the main question, Arif, how is, agile leadership is the setting of the right culture, but how do you help agiles grow in this? What is it that you can do to help leaders?
Well, I think. Well, I'm guessing we're going to come on to. We've talked a lot about the lead. Well, we haven't talked a lot about it just yet. But in the lead up to this event, we've been alluding to a new development model that we enjoy using to help leaders, right? So maybe we'll touch on that shortly. But in terms of what they can do, I think there has to be a serious, I suppose, introspection for leaders to look at their own biases, preferences in terms of how they lead, right? What they feel comfortable with, what they don't feel comfortable with. And then it's an assessment of, okay, which of these are going to inhibit or which of these are going to, I suppose, what's the word I can use?
Facilitate growth.
Facilitate, grow, facilitate agile practices, or agility being practiced in an organization. That's the challenge for leaders.
That's a brilliant example you gave, Arif. And I think just looking at this slide, it's agility cannot be taught because it's a mindset. In terms of agile leadership, is a certain mindset because you have to create culture. It's not just a technical skill.
Yeah,
it's much more, and thus it has to be coached. So when it comes to coaching, when it comes to leadership coaching, Arif, I'm just wondering, if you were to, maybe some of our viewers are not familiar with the concept of coaching, how would you describe it?
Well, it's a very misunderstood term, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So unfortunately, and what most people are familiar with when they hear the word coaching is they look at, for example, sports coaching.
Yeah, they would.
Right, and most of us see or witness that on our television screens or or whatever medium you consume your sports and news, and you see how coaches and managers behave, and that is very much directive in its style in terms of telling the athlete or the sportsman and woman what to do, how to do it, guiding them in what is good, what is not good. So it's very much teacher like, right? It may be one-to-one, but and maybe group, it may be both, but it's very teacher like. That isn't what we mean by coaching, TK. So what we mean by coaching is very different. It's where we firmly believe that the answer to whatever challenge someone is going through lies within the person themselves. A coach is there to essentially facilitate that person's thoughts and feelings in order to help them make progress to whatever goals they wish to achieve, right? Whatever they want to get to in their career. So it's like the actual English language, or the coach, the vehicle of a coach is you go in a coach and then you come out the other end at the goal you're meant to arrive in, right?
Yeah,
so coach takes you there. So
where it originated from, and
where it originates from.
Yeah, and it's a thought-provoking process. So again, there is very little teaching involved. One would say, right?
Correct.
Because because everyone leads differently. And we'll talk about it in one of our next episodes, that there is always a possibility of leading in different ways, and all styles of leadership can be great in actually growing agility. So
Yeah.
the way we do it is using a leadership development model called the leadership circle.
Yes.
So the leadership circle is a evidence-based, highly data-based leadership development model that helps leaders become high performers. And what we do with it is we overlay on top of it a layer of agile culture. So with us, the humble associates, and the leadership circle, we combine it into a tool that helps you as a leader develop yourself into a grower of agility, and help you identify yourself with the areas that you can be poisoning agility. And if you're so inclined, we help leaders to basically get away from that.
Yeah.
So, Arif, would you like maybe to share a bit of a story how we work with leaders, or how we've worked with leaders? Anything that you found exciting, or in the way we do that?
Yeah, I think I can do. As I think, just a bit more
Mm.
context to build on what you're saying. Firstly, I think what's important here for our viewers and people watching this is it's not about, as we said earlier, teaching you what you should do. Right,
Mm.
that's really important. The tool is there as a kind of conversation starter for you to do your own reflection and assess your own self as to where you are in terms of your leadership style. What we then do on top of that is then talk about, okay, if you want to then apply agile values and principles in your workplace, which of those leadership stances are working towards helping that, and which aren't, right? So
Yeah.
that's the important thing, and it's a self-reflection activity. So you assess where you are, work with us to then, or what we would do is work with you then to kind of figure out where you need to get to. And in terms of stories of what we've done, definitely, I mean, we've been working with some leaders recently, and one springs to mind, who very new to agility, had not much experience with working with agile teams, but very passionate, very
Yeah.
passionate, and engaging as a person, charismatic as a figure. Clearly, someone who invoked a lot of motivation from his team, right, in terms of the work and direction and what have you. But what was interesting going through the profile with him, and as he was doing the self-assessment, it's there were those moments where he himself probably wasn't so aware of the impact of his style on his employees.
And that's the thing. Yeah.
So while he was very passionate, it was all great. What that led to on on some occasions was it tipped over into what could be very overbearing and difficult kind of style of leadership, and that led to people not feeling comfortable, not being
Yeah.
able to share
Mm.
their true authentic self, or be able to challenge in the right way, or question in the right way. But it was more like, well, we just have to do what we're told and we just carry on. So that was a really tough conversation for him to be able to realize and see that for himself. But at least that was a starting point for him. So it provoked him into new thinking. It provoked him to thinking about, okay, if I really want to apply this, and if I really want to bring this into my workplace or my
Hmm.
work environment, then there needs to be some changes, and that's where the coaching journey starts, right?
And that's a brilliant example again, Arif, because you've talked about the culture that this particular leader, I know who you have in mind, has created in the organization, the teams he was working with. So again, he had growers, but he also had poisoners, and we were working
Mm.
with him to help him through the journey of focusing on the growers, but also knowing his poisoners and knowing how to avoid them. And this is where the leadership circle profile with our agile growers and poisoners can be exceptionally powerful when it comes to that. It just helps you understand what you can get. So, the next thing I wanted to talk about is how the journey looks like
Right.
for us about this. And by the way, if you go to our website, we have a special website for you over here. Let me show it to you. So if you go to Humble Associates / Agile Leadership, you'll see our website that describes this journey. And what it talks about is the steps that leaders take when going through it. It also has, the ability for you to book a session with us as a taster, so you can maybe explore a part of it yourself. But in fact, the journey is that you start with basically being briefed by us, understanding what the profile is and what we're getting. We usually work with groups of leaders. Afterwards, we help leaders discover their profiles and then set their development goals individually and in a group. And following that, we continue a process of coaching both individually and usually with a group of leaders, because we believe that a community of leaders is something important. But this is a full scope of the program. You can also get a bit of a taster. So if you go to this website, you will be able to book us. So Arif, if someone goes to the website and books us, how will their journey look like? What's the taster?
Okay. I think we just need to be clear. We're offering the process starts with a complementary assessment, right? So you get to assess your own leadership style, look at where you are sitting based on that profile, and there's more information about the profile is on that website. So do check it out. But it's an hour complimentary, a complimentary 1 hour session where we'll go through that assessment with you, look at your weaknesses, strengths together with you, and help you come up with some kind of plan to help you move forward in your workplace, so that you can better support agility in with the teams you're working with. This is as simple as that, really.
As simple as that. And we've been doing it with quite a few organizations, and now we're making it public. So it's a bit of a premiere of our new website for Agile Leadership. So give it a go. Have a look at Humble Associates / Agile Leadership. / Agile - Leadership. You will be a link is on the screen. You will be able to see it. Apart from that, we're doing a lot more, and there'll be, first of all, we'll have next episodes of the Agile Leadership webinar like this. So stay tuned to the Humble Associates profile on LinkedIn. You'll be able to see us there, and we will advertise it today in the
I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So as TK was saying, we've got another episode, I'm sure, planned very soon on this topic of agile leadership. 8th of June, we will be. Sorry, 8th of June or 6th of June. I'm sorry, I haven't got the date in front of me. But we've got our next Agile 101 in 2 weeks' time. So do look out for that on our 101. And then on Fridays, we're back with our usual breakfast jam that we have every Friday, although the next one will be next Friday. We are not having a breakfast jam this week. We'll be having one next week. TK, we've got a little bit time left, so I think for our viewers, it'll be useful to just talk a little bit more about the profile and in the sense of, very briefly, what maybe we might want to expect, what they might expect us talking about in the next episode of this brand new series. We've given a very brief taster. We've very briefly given them a taste of what this is all about as a topic, but in terms of the profile, etc., what can viewers expect the next time they see us for the second episode?
So we will definitely talk about the two sides of the Agile leadership profile. We will talk about how, as an Agile leader, you're going to be creative, which is to create your own reality and to help others grow. But also, what are the roots of your behavior, which is your reactive side? What is it that happens when you're stressed, when you're not able to be your best? What can come out, and how to transform it into something that can empower you to be a great Agile leader? So essentially, the the Agile Leadership Circle profile is divided into halves: the reactive and the creative side. And you can also see it in, obviously, the Leadership Circle profile. So when you will have a session with us, hopefully, if you go to the website and book it, we'll guide you all through this and we'll tell you how it works. But even if you don't, we'll most certainly talk about it the next time we meet.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to delve into that in more detail in our next episode, and give you more insight into what these two sides of this profile look like. Probably we'll go into more detail on each of those sides as well, I'm guessing
We
as well.
are,
So
going to, and
yeah,
I don't want to spill all the beans
of
or apples
course.
away, just because I need to make it a bit of a cliffhanger. So you tune in to the next one.
Totally
But
fair.
yeah, Arif, have you seen any interesting questions from our audience?
Unfortunately, not much. I mean, again, my LinkedIn is very flaky. The
Yes, unfortunately,
questions
yeah.
appear, don't appear. So if you
But
did, post it, and we may come back to the question anyway after the event closes. So
we
if
definitely
you have
will,
something,
because even though
post it
this session is
afterwards.
live, it also gets recorded and it will be
It does.
available straight away. So if
Yeah,
you're watching it, put a comment here or maybe
yeah,
give us a like so we can respond. And if you have
yes.
any questions regarding it, any questions about our Agile Leadership product, give us a shout. We're always happy to chat. And I guess we'll see you soon for the next episode or on one of our coaching sessions.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay, stopping streaming. We're off the air. Obviously, my audio went away as it usually does.
It says on air still for me.
Yeah, I know, but it has the. Oh, sorry.